My name's John Maniatis. I'm a director of private clients here at Henley and Partners' New York City office. I oversee our team locally over here, as well as our efforts in Texas and in Chicago. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Edward Clark, who is the CEO of the program office over in Nauru, which is, of course, the topic that we'll be discussing today, the Economic and Climate Resilience Citizenship Program. To start, I wanted to give a bit of a background as to who Henley and Partners is and what our involvement is in this process. And to do that, I think it's important to understand a little bit about the history of Henley and Partners and our role in this industry. Over 25 years ago, we decided that we were approached by governments looking to raise foreign direct investment. And we realized that attracting foreign direct investment, a fantastic way to do this would be to implement citizenship by investment programs. And 25 years later, and 60 plus offices worldwide later, with a staff that's growing every year, we have become and maintain our presence as the industry leader. We advise clients in over 60 different offices around the world and have at this point reached over $15 billion in foreign direct investment. When we're approached by clients, we can see that regardless of where they are, we can have a local presence that really can give them an individualized service and an adapted service in the sense that we understand what their needs are because we are in the same location as them. And when clients go through this advisory process, they can rest assured that they are dealing with somebody who is a local expert. Now, the typical process when clients are working with Henley and Partners, and we will get into the details, of course, of the Nauru program shortly, is that when we're introduced to a client, we go through a process very similar to what banks go through when they do their KYC. We try to understand the client's individual profile, what their objectives are, who their family is, what kind of passports they're holding, what they're trying to accomplish, and then define and implement a proper strategy for them to acquire citizenship and residence via investment. Now, this strategy can be a medium and a long-term strategy because these programs often take some time to complete. So we try and work with clients to have geographical diversification, financial diversification, and then we continue to onboard and maintain and optimize this strategy as clients progress through this. We have clients that have dealt with us for multiple programs and try to diversify this not only as an economic hedge, but a mobility hedge as well. And I really don't want to take too much of your time. Of course, Edward is the star of the show here. We really want to see a little bit more about the Nauru economic program, and I will leave it up to Edward here to take over.
Thank you, John, for the warm introduction, and welcome everyone to the session today to introduce you to the Nauru Economic and Climate Resilient Citizenship Program. Let me get the logistics sorted and then we can get moving. So where is Nauru? I guess it's probably a question that comes up a lot. Why would I be interested in Nauru? Nauru is a tiny nation just slightly south of the equator in the Pacific. It has a population of approximately 12,000 people. It's very warm. I haven't yet been there myself. I am based in New Zealand, which is where we are running the program office, but I will be visiting Nauru very, very shortly. Many of you will be aware that Nauru launched this program last week at COP29. And as John mentioned, the Nauru government is looking for innovative ways to raise foreign direct investment. And in particular, they're looking for ways to raise foreign direct investment to fund their climate solutions. And I think this is really an exciting opportunity for a lot of the clients because it is a great way for investors to be able to step in and actually, play an active role in helping a small island nation develop unique climate solutions. And a small country like Nauru has a number of challenges that they face. It's low lying on sea level. They have certain challenges like access to running water, solar energy. So these are kind of uh, initiatives that they are looking to build on and funnel investment into. And of course, as John mentioned, by opening up this program and enabling access to citizenship, it is a fantastic way for them to actually raise the foreign direct investment. I'll give a little bit more detail just around some of the initiatives that they have planned. As I mentioned, they're a low-lying nation. So they have initiatives such as the Higher Ground Initiative, where they're actually looking to relocate some of the infrastructure, housing to higher levels on the island. As I mentioned, there's no access to running water. There's no fresh water on the island. So they're looking at developing really innovative solutions to desalination. Solar energy and energy resilience is really important to them, and other such initiatives. In terms of who we are as the program office, we're newly established. We're a newly established team. We only launched last week. We are, of course, still getting up and running, and we will do our best to answer and address all of the questions, but there are some things that we won't have answers to just yet. But our office is really here to administer the citizenship program. We will be liaising with agents as part of the application process. We'll be liaising with the Nauru government throughout the process. We'll provide oversight of the funds. We'll, of course, be conducting rigorous due diligence checks, and we will be providing regular reporting on the performance of the program and the achievements, and in particular where the funds are being invested into, so that people who apply successfully to the program have visibility over how their money is being spent and how this is actually benefiting the people of Nauru. Um, So just to really introduce a little bit more about the program, as I mentioned, the program is designed to funnel foreign direct investment to help the people of Nauru with their climate solutions. In terms of the application process, we're targeting a 3-month time frame. We're sort of indicating a 3 to 4 months, but we're optimistic that we'll be able to run the process within 3 months. We're obviously working very closely with the Nauru government and other stakeholders to make sure that this is operating as smoothly as possible. So what are some of the benefits to you if you're looking to diversify your citizenship? I think, as John mentioned, you know, a hedge against mobility is one of the key reasons why you might be interested in citizenship. Nauru has visa-free access to a number of strategic destinations, including Hong Kong, Ireland, Singapore, the UAE, and the UK. Overall, they have access to 89 countries. We would like to see that ultimately expand. And we'll be working with the Nauru government to see where we can potentially negotiate additional visa-free access. It's a politically neutral passport. So again, you know, depending on the reasons why you might be interested in citizenship, it can provide additional security or contingency to you or your family. In terms of who is able to apply, obviously the main applicant is open to nearly everyone, but we do enable family members to apply in alongside your application. So that will include spouse, dependents, and also it will enable siblings to be included as part of the application process. And Nauru has an allowance for dual citizenship as well. So getting into a little bit of the detail, as John mentioned, Henley and Partners, who are currently our only signed on or licensed agent, will conduct initial due diligence on you. So you'll work with the likes of John to develop whatever solution is appropriate for you and your family. And whether the Nauru program is right for you will be advised by the agent that you're working with. As part of that, it's important that there are initial due diligence checks conducted by the agent. And in terms of that, it's really important that you're upfront with your disclosure in terms of who you are, the funds, where they're coming from, family members, associates, the business interests, etc. It's much better and much smoother through the application process if you're upfront with that, and it's not discovered throughout the process. So once you're aligned with an agency, they will work with you to compile the documentation that is required to submit an application. Once that comes through to us, we'll of course do our checks to make sure that all the documentation is in order. Once that is satisfactory, we'll kick off quite an in-depth due diligence process. Once the due diligence process is completed, then we will make a recommendation through to the Nauru government, and they will make an ultimate decision on granting citizenship or not. In terms of what is required as a contribution towards the program, the costs are on the screen in front of you, but a single applicant is $105,000 US. And then there are additional costs depending on the size of your family, as well as an additional $15,000 if it is a sibling included in the application. That additional $15,000, or I guess just one thing to note here, if you are looking to include a sibling in the application, that sibling is also included as a family member. So if, as an example, if you were a single applicant and you were applying with your brother or sister, that would initially trigger as a family of up to 4, and then there'll be an incremental $15,000 on top of that. In terms of eligibility, main applicant must be, of course, 18 years old. We will be doing rigorous due diligence checks. Of course, you need to have the financial means to be able to apply. Ideally, you should not have a criminal record, although, we will be looking at that from a risk-based approach. I think it really depends on the nature of the crime. So it's not something that will be entirely ruled out, but of course, it's likely that it'll be a much smoother application if applicants do not have a criminal record. In terms of what the due diligence process looks like. There are initial checks that are done by the agents, and negative news searches done on the applicant. But then in addition to that, we go through a number of checks which include looking at all of the family members, looking at associates, any political exposure to political persons. We take a close look at the wealth of the applicant, where they have developed their wealth, how long they've been a person of means, where the funds are being paid from, in terms of the application and the contribution to the government. We will be conducting interviews with the applicants as well. And we'll use that as an opportunity to deep dive into anything that potentially comes up as a red flag during the process. And agents are not allowed in that interview as well. There are, of course, rigorous police checks done on the applicant as well, and that will include searches on international police databases. Yeah, here's a little bit about the due diligence process, but what I've just mentioned provides much more detail. And then, of course, some of you will be interested in how to become a licensed agent as well. So we're open to working with a range of agents. As I mentioned, we already have Henley and Partners signed on as an agent. But we will work with agents across the globe. In terms of the licensing process, we will conduct our due diligence on the agent. We're looking to work with agents who have demonstrated previous experience in the field, are well established. Of course, we'll need to conduct due diligence on the individuals, the shareholders, partners, directors of the firm. We need to understand, obviously, that you are a legitimate company. You'll need to sign up to a code of conduct, and you'll need to, of course, submit an application form, and you can work with our team throughout that process to engage us and ask us any questions in terms of what is appropriate, whether we'll take agents from certain countries. So we really want to get an understanding of who you are, what your agency looks like in terms of size, what are the jurisdictions that you deal with, and those kind of questions. So I realize that's a very quick run through of the Economic and Climate Resilience Citizenship Program. But I wanted to go through this quite quickly because I realize it's probably much more valuable to spend time answering any questions.
So, Edward, there are two questions that have come in already. The first one is that you mentioned recently at IMI that the agent will get 25,000 for each successful investor who enters the program. Is this something that you can confirm?
Yes. So the agent fee for a successful applicant is 25,000 US dollars. And that comes out of the investment contribution to the Nauru government. There is, in addition, a application fee of $25,000 and a due diligence fee of $10,000.
Excellent. Does having citizenship in Nauru also give you the right to buy property on the island?
Look, it's Not something I actually have an answer to. It is a question that we are getting quite often at the moment. As I mentioned, I'm traveling to Nauru to meet with members of the government shortly. So that is something that I will raise with them and clarify, and something that we can come back to you. So, John, I think, John, if we can probably collate a list of questions that we aren't able to answer today, it'll be great if we can then share that back to everyone who's been able to join the webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. We could certainly arrange that. And one of the next questions that we received, of course, is are there any restricted nationalities? For example, Afghanis, the question I guess was forecast migration Pakistan.
Yes, we do have a number of restricted countries that we won't deal with. And Afghanistan is included in that list of jurisdictions. So at the moment, in terms of the countries where we won't accept applicants from, it will include Afghanistan, Belarus, Iran, Myanmar, North Korea, Russia, Sudan, and Yemen.
Excellent. One of the questions, of course, was can you recap the expected processing times from submission to approval? Of course, being that the program is very new, this is an estimate, but this is a very important question.
Yeah, look, we've indicated that the processing time will be 3 to 4 months from the point of application through to the granting of citizenship. Now, of course, this process will, I guess the time will depend a little bit on the complexity of the application, the number of family members that are potentially included. So if it is a relatively straightforward application, if all of the documentation is in order, or everything has been disclosed up front in terms of where the funds are coming from, in terms of where the wealth is coming from, and any other details that are required, then that will really help with the application process and the streamlining of the process. You're right, it is a new program, and we don't have everything running exactly as we would like. So, for example, at the moment, in terms of the application process, it will be a little bit manual in terms of filling out the forms and emailing them or uploading the documents through to us. Ultimately, we will develop some more tools that enable us to automate some of the process. But overall, it's a 3 to 4 month time frame that we're looking to stick to. We'll, of course, do our best as a program office to run everything as efficiently as possible, and we'll be trying to keep that as streamlined as we can.
Excellent. We
I
have
don't know if there are any specific questions that they want to ask around the time frame. I'm happy to go into as much detail as possible, but it's difficult to tell exactly how things are going to work at this stage because we haven't actually had anyone apply for the program yet.
Of course, and these things always take time. Naturally, they do. As the programs progress, the processing times definitely improve over time as well. And we are getting a few more questions coming in as well. So if someone has a UK visa rejection, will they face problems? And I think we can expand this question a little bit if they have a pre-existing visa rejection in general, maybe not just for the UK, but we can answer both, of course.
It really depends on the reason for the visa rejection. So if, for example, it's because of a previous criminal conviction, then it really depends on the nature and severity of the crime. And how that will be viewed by us when we do our due diligence, the recommendation that we will provide to the Nauru government, and ultimately how the Nauru government view that. For example, if it's for, I don't know, overstaying in the UK, then I don't see that particularly as being an issue, or other countries, but it really depends on probably the country themselves. But I wouldn't expect it to be any issue. But as I mentioned again, it really depends on what the reason is for that rejection in the first place.
Excellent. We have another maybe 6 or 7 questions coming in so far. So are there other economic development plans for the island, such as hospitals, primary schools, university, or tourism?
Look, the priority for Nauru in terms of the investment is really on, climate and economic resilience, which aligns with the name of the program.
Mhm.
Nauru is a very small country, and they don't get a lot of foreign direct investment. So the priority for the program is really to fund the investment into their climate resilience programs or climate resilience initiatives. Look, there's no, I would say, the funds or the investments that come through from applicants for the program. I guess ultimately it's up to the Nauru government to determine how they best want to apply those funds. So they have given a commitment, and will be providing reporting around the use of those funds, and they have said they want to prioritize these for climate investments, but the fund has, I guess, ultimately the autonomy to apply it elsewhere. So depending on the funds that are raised, how the climate initiatives are progressing, then they have the flexibility to apply those to other initiatives in the future.
Excellent. Now, this is a great question too. Which nationalities would you expect the program to be most attractive to? And I think this is obviously a global question that I could touch on as well, Edward, if you'd allow me. I think that the idea here,
Absolutely.
this is really it's attractive to everyone, in my opinion. Anybody who's looking for an alternative citizenship to increase global mobility, somebody who's looking to make a difference on the island of Nauru, that's fantastic. If we're looking for a backup plan, if we're looking for a politically benign passport to travel on, this would be fantastic. As to specific nationalities, maybe this isn't, an alternative to countries that are, rank very highly in terms of mobility access, but maybe this is somewhere where more developing nations would be more inclined to apply. Edward, I'd love your input as well.
Yeah, look, we don't really have a view on where we expect applications to come from yet. We can kind of hypothesize, but until we actually see the applications come through, we'll get a better idea. I think you're right. We obviously need to point out the Nauru passport doesn't have Schengen access, so it doesn't have visa-free travel to the Eurozone. But that is also reflected in the price point of the program as well. So it is a lower entry level, and there are still a lot of visa-free travel options available, as I mentioned before, including UK, Hong Kong, Singapore, Ireland, UAE.
And that actually answers one of the following questions that we have, being that the investment amount is 105,000. It's very competitive against other programs like the Caribbean, which may have longer wait times for processing, which may have a little bit of a higher point of entry as well.
Yeah, that's right. So it's really designed, I think, in terms of what it offers. In terms of benefits, I think some of the Caribbean programs have that Schengen access, which is sort of how they can potentially charge a higher fee for the citizenship, so that needs to be reflective, I guess, of the demand and what this actually offers for clients.
I would also like to specify that this webinar is recorded and will be shared with all of you. So if there was something that was missed, of course, it will be shared with you. Like, for example, there's another question regarding annual license agent fees that will also be made available to you. But to specify, of course, we can go through these questions. You know, the annual license agent fee is 5,000 agent fee for each investor, or 25,000.
So the licensing fee is 5,000 per annum on a prorated basis. So if you're applying now, it'll be through to the 31st of January, which is when we will review all of the agent licenses. So 5,000 for the per annum for the license fee. The 25,000 that we refer to is the fee that will be paid to the agent for a successful application.
And what would be one of the next questions, of course, is what is the average timing for review of a new agent for the immigration company like Henley and Partners, for example?
Look, if everything is in order in terms of the documentation, so having directors, shareholders, identification, getting it appropriate company documents, then for us to complete the due diligence process, it shouldn't take too long. I don't know exactly, but for Henley and Partners, there was a little bit of back and forth in terms of getting some of the documentation, but I think we were able to complete that within a week or 2 weeks.
Excellent.
And as we sort
And I
of
guess would there be
get more used to the process, we'll improve the turnaround time for that. But yeah, of course, it really depends. If you want to make sure the process runs smoothly, make sure that you get all the documentation ready up front. And our team are happy to engage and provide input on the preparation of an agent application as well.
Is there, a cap in terms of applicants per year? Do you think you'll be able to process a fixed number of applications per year? I guess this is a we'll wait and see kind of question, but in terms of an application cap, I think that's a very interesting question.
Yeah, so at the moment there is not an application cap. Obviously Nauru is a very small country. So, with 12,000, a population of 12,000 already. And, if we start seeing high volumes of applicants, or if there is a negative impact as a result of the citizenship program, or, high volumes, then, the Nauru government will, of course, remain, I guess, flexible to how they adapt to what is coming through. So there is no cap at the moment. It is something that we will be monitoring in terms of the volumes and the impact that the program is having, either positive or negative. And there is a possibility that a cap will be introduced in the future, but at this stage,
We'll need to
there's
wait
nothing.
we definitely need to wait and see, that's for sure. So the next question, it's the last question that we have as of now. Are there any plans to sign a visa-free agreement in the EU in the coming months?
I can say with 100% certainty there is no plan in the coming months to sign a visa-free agreement with the EU. That is, of course, aspirationally what we would love to achieve for the Nauru passport. In terms of visa-free travel, our initial targets will be in the Pacific. It will be for visa-free travel to Australia and New Zealand. because of their strategic importance in the Pacific region, we believe optimistically that those will be big ticket, quick wins in terms of additional visa-free travel. And of course, access to other Pacific Island nations makes sense for the Nauru passport. And I think if we're able to work with the Nauru government to negotiate those, then there may be scope to expand that. But I don't see that happening in the coming months.
Excellent. The next question is stateless nationalities can stateless nationals apply? I know I can answer part of that. I know that in our due diligence, when we work with clients that are stateless, we pretty much always require a passport in order to do a background check on an individual. I'm not sure what the individual process is for Nauru as it's a new program. Maybe Edward, you can clarify.
Yeah, similar position that we have, John. We really require an existing passport, existing nationality in order to conduct due diligence.
Excellent. That's all the questions we have so far. If anybody else would love to ask a question, certainly please submit them now. We'll stay on for another minute or two. And then we can always, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We're happy to help process these applications and help you go through these wonderful application processes. Henley and Partners is certainly available to go through, these entire application processes, as well as any of our 40 different programs around the world.
I think there are still a number of things that we haven't got clarification on yet as well. And I think some of these came up in an earlier Q&A session that was run. I wasn't attending that earlier Q&A session, but one of my colleagues was. And one of the topics that came up was citizenship by descent. So that's something that will be coming back to all of the, hopefully coming back to all of the webinar attendees on, in terms of clarifying some of these questions. Tax implications will obviously be an important consideration. That's not something that the Nauru Program Office can really comment on. I think it's something that you'll need to go away and get independent tax advice on. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of any other questions that you might have. But, look, the Nauru Program Office, is happy to answer any of your questions offline as well. We're contactable through our website, so feel free to reach out to us with any questions you might have about the program, either the agent application process or the citizenship application process.
Excellent. And I think that's a great way to wrap everything up. Everybody, thank you so much for whoever's still left on this call. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for listening and your attention and your questions. We look forward to working with you soon.